You're listening to a Soul One podcast. It's recording now, Nicole. Hello, welcome back. Nicole, I know you listen to the show sporadically, so you probably didn't hear our Oscar episode, but Mike informed me that we never do an intro. So the last, 6 weeks where I've been, this is, you had me at Skip It, and I'm Taylor, and this is Nicole. He says, we don't do that. So,
we don't?
No, apparently not. It's my own flavor. It's, you know what it is? He said, back when we were on the radio, like in the old format, he was like, because it aired, I guess you could say, like in real time. It wasn't a live recording, but because it aired on the radio, we had to say what people were listening to. But with podcasts, people know what they're listening to. So I've been doing this whole intro thinking that I was doing a good job. I'm like, okay, I've got my little producer hat on, and apparently completely unnecessary. But anyways, for people who are new to the show and somehow the algorithm has spat them into this podcast, my name is Taylor, and typically Mike is with me, but we have Nicole back for You Had Me at Skip It. Mike will, if you tuned into our Oscar episode, Mike is slated to come back for our big Mike return. And Nicole, this is going to be historic for Mike. Katie and I probably could care less. We're welcoming him back with a classic movie club episode. So you heard it here first. We're giving you about 3-week lead time. So Nicole, start downloading the audiobook so you can read along with us. Project Hail Mary. We're doing a Project Hail Mary episode to welcome Mike back. This is, and I could be wrong, his favorite book.
You know what's so funny? Every time I've been, it's not even that funny, but every time I've seen any advertisement or any Project Hail Mary anything, I immediately think of Mike because he has not stopped talking about this movie and how he's so worried for the adaptation.
Because not only is this his favorite book, he hates Ryan Gosling.
I don't think I do.
Yeah, Katie and I, neither of us are space people. Katie doesn't read a lot of sci-fi, and I don't read any sci-fi, and I've been on record saying I don't like space movies, but we both, Katie and I could be putting words in her mouth. She likes Ryan Gosling. I like Ryan Gosling. We also like the premise of this movie. For Mike's sake, I'm not going to give away because Mike, the less you know about this IP, the better, even though everything's spoiled in the trailer and all their promotional materials. But for Mike's sake, I will not mention any of those things that are mentioned in the promotional. But Katie and I are like, we are going to like this movie for such different reasons than Mike. And we're thrilled for how the review is going to go because, yeah, he loves the book and we don't care about the book. The movie is getting a ton of good buzz. I don't know how well that book did because, again, I don't read sci-fi, but it's by the same author of The Martian. So I think he's like a New York Times bestselling author. I think people like his book. So Mike should be back for the April 16th episode. So people who like to read the book or follow along with our movie clubs, our book movie clubs, have the book read. It's quite a thick tome from what I can tell because I'm listening on audiobook and it's over 16 hours of audio content. So start reading now. And Katie said it's at her library in Toronto. Very difficult to get a hold of. It's on, I used to work at a library too. What do you call that? Not essentially back order.
Yeah.
It's on, everyone's trying to get it. So that gives you 1, 2, 3. Exactly 3 weeks to get ready for that movie club and Mike's grand return. And then actually, Father Quirk wanted me to let everyone know we are also doing a smaller movie club. And that will be coming out for us Catholics Holy Week. That's coming out the Thursday, April the 2nd. And we will be watching so that you can find it and watch along with us. And I want to make sure that I'm getting this right. This is a French movie. It is an adaptation of a book. It's called Diary of a Country Priest. And it is from 1951 and it's available on Apple TV for rent. So we're assigning homework well in advance to our listeners. We're kind of getting back into some of our movie clubs. That's Diary of a Country Priest, available on Apple TV for rent. That will be the first week of April. And then the week after Easter, April the 16th, we'll be doing Project Hail Mary. So I'll try to do a couple more reminders between now and then, but get watching, get reading so you can follow along. That was a lot of housekeeping, Nicole. I'm very sorry. You didn't sign up for that.
I am very much enjoying it.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Well, then I'll do one more little last piece of homework for people, or a little bit of housekeeping. Just a reminder, we do take fan questions. Fan questions have been a little bit sporadic, just with Mike being off. He is the one who monitors the website and the inbox. But keep bringing those questions in so that you can either drop it in the Google Doc for me, or we will address them in the second half of April. You can submit a question on our website at solonearts.ca/podcast. That's SOLONEARTS.ca/podcast. And I believe there's a form that you can just drop an old Q in there. So that should be all of the homework, Nicole. That's all the housekeeping. Now we can get into the movie watching.
Beautiful job on the housekeeping.
Thanks. That's I think it was last week when Father Quirk said, "Have you told everyone about Diary of a Country Priest?" That's my little British accent. And I hope he doesn't hear that. And I said, "No, I'll let people know this week." So there you go, everyone. You can watch along with that. So today we're going to have 3 reviews, 2 movies and a documentary. Although I don't really know. Yeah, Louis Theroux's a documentarian. We can call it a documentary. So you watch 2 movies for us, Nicole. We're going to kind of go back and forth. Which movie do you want to review first?
Let's go with well, they're both horror. Let's go with the scarier horror movie.
Like the actual, you know what's funny? Well, we can get into this. You know, Sinners, like for instance, we talked about Sinners at work today. So it's on the brain, is considered a horror movie. I don't find vampire movies scary. So like, I know one of the movies you're reviewing is considered like the horror genre, but like I wouldn't find it, maybe it is scary, I don't know, but like Frankenstein, Del Toro's Frankenstein is considered a horror, but that movie to me isn't scary. So we need to have like another genre name for these movies that are like horror but not scary. You know what I mean?
I really do. It is kind of misleading, isn't it? I didn't find it scary either. Let me see. Dark comedy, dark romance, monster horror, period drama, body horror, psychological drama.
I guess like monster movie.
Monster movie, yeah.
Because like The Mummy is considered.
Did you see the trailer for the new one?
Okay.
I was going to ask you.
It's a little bit confusing because for listeners, because I think even in conversations, not even on the podcast, but in real life, but maybe even on the podcast, it's confusing because there's 2 Mummy movies coming out. There's going to be a Mummy 4 with Rachel Weisz and Brendan Fraser. Brendan Fraser. Mm-hmm. But that is not in production yet, or has just started production. Which obviously, longtime listeners of the show, at least I hope, would know. Mike and I, huge fans. I can't put words in his mouth. For me, the first 2. I didn't even bother seeing the third one. The Dragon Tomb or whatever. But first 2 movies, huge fans. So like, huge news that Rachel Weisz and Brendan Fraser are coming back. So that's Mummy movie number 1. Okay? Which is based on the IP from the 1930s. I think it's Universal Studios. The Dracula, the Mummy, Creature from the Black Lagoon, if I'm not mistaken. I think there's a Wereman movie. So they wanted to, if people remember, Tom Cruise tried to reboot that Universal horror franchise a couple years ago with a Mummy movie. And even though the Rachel Weisz and the Brendan Fraser movie are Universal Mummy, he wasn't rebooting their version of the Mummy, but was like in that universe. Anyways, it was a complete flop. The Dark Universe didn't go forward. Huge devastation for us movie fans, classic horror movie fans. Okay, fast forward today, Nicole. Okay, so there is also another Mummy movie coming out, I believe this year. Correct me if I'm wrong.
April, baby.
Okay, and this is the trailer that you're referring to.
It is.
I incorrectly, but I could be wrong. I was talking to my cousin, and I went on this whole tangent about 1930s cinema and Universal Studios and horror, and somehow we talked about the Hays Codes, whatever. And I'm like, this
sound real fun.
I was lecturing her about this, and I mistakenly said, okay, and this is going to be a reboot of the Universal movies. But no, I think this is completely separate IP from Universal. Because I watched the trailer. Number 1, it looks scary as heck.
Yeah.
And number 2, does not have the classic, I would say, like, romance trope. Because, like, the Universal IP is that, for spoilers, for, like, you know, almost 100 years ago. But the Mummy is actually just a ripoff of Dracula, of the Dracula movies. And so the Mummy is essentially looking for his lost love, right? And that is not what this trailer is.
No. Okay, so interestingly enough, it technically, because the Mummy, like, the Mummy as is a Universal IP.
Yeah.
No matter which way you cut it, it technically is a reimagining of the Mummy franchise. However,
interesting.
It's not Universal. It's a Warner Brothers movie, and it's going to be like Blumhouse. So I guess they're pairing up with Warner Brothers, but it's a different because if you remember, the original Mummy, the Universal Mummy, was like an actually scary movie. Like, people were actually scared of it.
Yeah, in the 30s, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think they're trying to do the same thing, and funnily enough, like, it looks so scary. It's the same director who did you ever see the new Evil Dead Rise? The one with the scary looking cover of the mom, and
no,
he has, like,
it's not Sam Raimi.
It's not, but it's part of the series. It's,
right, got it.
Yeah, it's scary.
Okay.
Yeah, so this is going to be scary.
It looks frightening. So very confusing. Are they do they have to pay like you probably don't know this answer. Maybe you do. Do they have to pay a licensing fee because this movie is called The Mummy, is it not? Or Mummy?
No, it's called Lee Cronin's The Mummy. So I feel like what's happening is they've taken, because I do feel like there has to be, while it is technically Universal IP, there has to be something of just a mummy in general that is, what is it called? Where you don't have to pay. What is it called?
Oh, yeah, I know what you mean. Open source.
Open source. Like, there's no way.
Yeah, a mummy's a mummy. They can't all be copyrighted.
Yeah, but the whole idea of the mummy coming back to life,
right,
in like a scary way, I think is Universal. Anyway, TLDR, it's coming out next month. It looks super spooky. I'm very excited.
April's an interesting time to drop horror movies. Well, you're reviewing 2 horror movies, and it's March. So clearly there are no rules anymore. We've talked about this before on the podcast, Nicole. Mike and I actually don't care when horror movies are released just because we like horror movies and we can watch them out throughout the year. But it is interesting to me in terms of box office performance to just like drop out. Like The Mummy, this one, to me feels better situated in October. It's interesting to drop it in April. Unless they're going like Easter, resurrection, like a very loose Easter theme. But it's about, the trailer really disturbed me. It was not even remotely, it's going in a direction that I would not have guessed at all.
I know. Well, I'm kind of jazzed that none of these are coming out during Halloween because I feel like the same thing happens, you know, with Christmas stuff. You kind of get overwhelmed with the holiday of it all.
Sure.
And I like having it all kind of spread out. I want to share the horror love.
Nothing wrong with that. So with that being said, why don't you tell us about a scary movie you watched recently?
Oh, sure. Okay, so I went to the cinema.
Good for you.
At the Grove the other night with my friend, and we saw Undertone, which is, it technically is 2025 because I think it was released last year at Fantasia.
Okay.
And then got picked up by A24.
Right. Like the wide distribution would be this year, 2026.
Yes, that's right. And it's called Undertone. It's actually Canadian, which we love.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yes. It's basically there's only 2 actors who are in it the whole time and then one person's voice, which is super fun.
I'm already scared, like, because I know, like, spoiler. Is this a spoiler? Can I say what I'm going to say? It's in the trailer, I think. It's in the trailer, I think. It's about a podcast.
Yeah.
So, like, like, even just... It just creeps me out because we're literally recording a podcast right now. But I can hear George playing downstairs. My apologies if you can also hear him on the mic. He's playing, speaking of Halloween, he's playing trick-or-treating and or grocery shopping. But anyways, I'm like a little bit nervous just you talking about it. Ooh, Nicole, imagine if we're recording this and we hear a voice.
Well, they hear a lot of voices on this one.
Oh, so. Puke. Okay, continue.
So, let me write it down for you. So basically, this movie is about this woman who hosts a podcast about paranormal stuff.
Right.
And with her friend, so we hear her friend's voice, and this friend was like recast after the movie was cut and everything, even though it's just his voice. It was very interesting. So
I wonder I would like to know more about that production choice, but anyways, go on.
I'm not sure, maybe because the recast was Adam DeMarco, and he's pretty famous. He was in White Lotus. Anyway, he ends up being the voice of the friend, the podcast friend.
The other host.
Justin, yes. And so the main character, her name is Evie? Yeah, I think Evie. Funnily enough, we were talking about The Mummy. And her podcast host, Justin, and what happens is, so she is living at home because her mother is dying.
Oh.
And so she's taking care of her mother. Basically, she's expected to die any day. And they sit down to record their podcast, and the other host, Justin, receives this random email with basically like the equivalent of gobbledygook written in it with 10 MP4 audio files. And so each time they
I hate this. I don't know if I'd be able to watch this movie, Nicole.
Taylor, it is scary. It is, and just so the listeners know, like, I mean, to me, audio horror is, like, the sound of things really gets me. And
sure, because you can close your eyes, but you can't plug your ears.
Well, so what I've been taking to doing, also because I'm just overstimulated just all the time, is putting in my AirPods just so I have a bit of a dampen on that. And just because, like, the anxiety just runs on the surface all the time. So I watched this with my AirPods in, nothing playing, but just to have some extra protection. And I was cuddled up next to my friend. We were like not breathing. Really, there's, and you know what's so funny? You'll see from Letterboxd, just online discourse in general, that this movie is very, very divisive.
Really?
Yes, kind of like how Longlegs was really divisive. Because people are calling Undertone like the scariest movie of the year.
Right.
And
people said that about Longlegs.
100%, yes. And the great thing about this movie is, well, I guess it's like learning what kind of horror gets to you. Some people don't find sounds to be very scary. But for those of us who do, this is a real experience. And I did read somebody say, I did read what somebody said, rather. And they said that they had watched this movie in the theater. And then they watched it at home, and they said it was actually much scarier to watch at home.
I think so, because I just want to interject real quickly. In all likelihood, I would probably be watching this movie while George napped in a darkened room with my earbuds on a phone. Like, ooh, and then, like, you know what I mean? Then you'd start thinking that you were, like, hearing those noises.
Yes.
In your room.
100%.
Oh!
Yeah, it was, and, like, I don't get spooked when I get home.
Right.
Like, when I got home, all the lights are on. I have the TV on. I have, like, Real Housewives playing. I was freaked out. And, yeah, so this movie was, I don't know if y'all can tell, this movie is very good, very scary. A little bit of a trigger warning, though. There is some, like...
Gross.
This is not a spoiler. No, there's 2 jump scares, and they're cheap, but, like, there's only 2 in the entire movie, so, like, that's not the thing. The trigger warning is more for, like, this is not a spoiler, but, like, motherhood.
Right.
And pregnancy. And, like, in this way, this movie doesn't do anything new. It doesn't do anything new in the content. It does something new in how it approaches the content. And additionally, you're in the same house the entire time.
Right.
So that is also an interesting level of, like, claustrophobia. But there's a lot of sounds related to pregnancy and babies. So if that is something that, one is sensitive to, it was not nearly as disturbing as Hamnet, though. So just keep that in mind.
Do you want to share, like, we don't go too much into, like, what reviewers say about movies, but it just strikes me that, like, people, same with, like, Longlegs, and I was in this camp, I thought Longlegs was fantastic. I don't think it was a perfect movie, but, like, I thought it was a very good movie. What is it that people aren't liking about it, I guess? But, like, without getting too much in the weeds, because you're having some people say this is so scary. Are some people just saying it's not scary?
Some people are saying it's so boring. They're like, it's so boring. It's just the same. And, like, those people probably don't get spooked by liminal space. They don't get spooked by, like, something feeling not right.
Right, the unsettling.
Yes. Yeah. And this is so, like, it just checks every one of those boxes. It is scary. It is a scary movie.
Okay, and I'm not familiar with the actress, so at least I've, like, seen stills. I don't recognize her face. I actually don't even know what her name is.
Yeah, her name is Nina Kiri. She is, like, was kicking around a lot when I was auditioning for things, too.
In Toronto?
Yeah, and she ended up being in Handmaid's Tale for a couple of seasons. So she's done stuff, in, like, a lot of Canadian content.
Right, okay.
So, yeah.
And she was good. Like, I'm assuming if there's only two actors and then a voice, she's kind of carrying it.
Yes, quite frankly, like I thought her performance was great, just fine, very good. But it's just not the thing that stuck with me. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like, everything else kind of stuck with me, but maybe that's like a good thing, you know? Because it's not like she blended into the world really well. So I enjoyed that.
Cool. Okay. And anything else? Any last thoughts? Other than, like, it sounds like it's a see it.
It's definitely a see it. If you can see it in a theater, like the community experience of everybody going, oh, literally like a roller coaster. Because, you know, there's no jump scares, but your camera's focused on the actress and there's something going on in the background.
Oh.
And everybody's like, oh no. So
I get, like,
experience.
do you listen to any supernatural podcasts? Because I listen to one. And even sometimes, like, they'll talk about EVPs or whatever. Like, I don't believe everything on the podcast that's happening is, like, sign of whatever. Like, I listen to it for entertainment factor, but I do believe ghosts are real. And they'll be like, oh, we had this EVP. I can't even, like, I don't even like them talking about it. It's the same with, like, every once in a while, I actually don't listen to a lot of true crime anymore, but I was, like, a huge true crime fan. I go through cycles. I think I overdid it, and now I need hence why I'm listening to this paranormal podcast instead. But they would sometimes, one of the Generation Y was one of the crime. Yeah, they're really great. They've been doing it, like, I think the longest, or, like, one of the longest. They were doing it before podcasts were even, like, cool or popular. But I don't think they do it anymore. But their early episodes, which I listened to when I was sick and bedridden, they would play the audio of, like, of police, like 911, which were, like, horrible. And then there was a couple of ones where they had, like, audio of, like, serial killers. And they would, like, play the audio. Like, I forget which murderer it was, but he essentially used to, before he was caught, would, like, call his victims. And, like, they played some of that. And I don't know if people complained, because in the new episodes, they don't, as far as I recall, they don't do that anymore. And I think I think people were like, you need to stop, because it's so anyways, that's why I feel like even listening to podcasts where again, it's a completely, I don't watch, because I know now the trend is, you know, video. I don't even know why they call them podcasts, but essentially, like, you can go on YouTube and, like, watch what watch the podcast. I don't do that. I'm still old. I'm old, so I only listen to audio. And so, yeah, I feel like what you're describing is absolutely horrifying. I can't even do it in, like, my regular podcasts. Ooh, the worst fear. Anyways, it's tapping into something, like, very real and very creepy.
No, it's what they did with I don't know. It's very scary. It really irked me. And I don't want to watch it again. I would recommend everybody do watch it, though. I don't need to watch it again.
Once was enough. Was enough. Okay. Shifting gears to the documentary I watched, which is available on Netflix. This one made quite the splash in the last couple weeks. Lots of think pieces about this documentary. This is Louis Theroux's Inside the Manosphere. So Louis Theroux is a British documentarian. He's been making documentaries, I would say, I don't know how you describe them. So I grew up watching Louis Theroux's Weird Weekends, which would be like BBC, I think it was BBC or Channel 4. I think 30 minutes, maybe an hour tops. And the premise would be that he would spend a weird weekend with, like, a niche group. Sometimes, like, controversial. Sometimes, is this ringing any bells? I watched these, like, probably from the age of, like, 12 until 17. Like, on cable, I would watch these. And his, like, bread and butter, I would say, is not even, like, infiltrating, because, like, the people know who he is. Like, he doesn't ever present himself as anyone else. He's just Louis Theroux, and he kind of drops into these groups. And I say controversial. They're not always controversial. Like, he did a documentary where he, like, went to a legal brothel in Vegas, for instance. So, like, that's controversial because of, like, how people perceive sex and sex work and things of that nature. But then he would also do, like, spend a weekend with, like, the KKK, which is, like, controversial for very different reasons, right? So that's kind of his, like, I grew up with Louis Theroux watching him, and they're not, I don't know how you describe it, like, short form documentaries in the sense that they were, like, 30 to 60 minutes long. Like, I wasn't watching later in his career. I think he left BBC. He started doing, like, longer documentary features, but how I grew up watching him would be, like, episodes on a TV show, essentially. Or, you know, like, documentary, kind of like, if people didn't grow up watching Louis Theroux, the closest I could think comparison would be Lisa, is it Lisa Lang or Lisa Ling? Our America.
You're really throwing it back.
These are like my, ooh, baby, I love them. This is America, I think. This is life. She had two versions because she was on the O network and then went to CNN or swapped. Anyways, these kind of, like, they're documentaries, but they're not very long. You know, they're never longer than an hour. So anyways, all that to say, that's all background that I grew up with Louis Theroux, and his style, like I said, he never presents himself anything but he is. He's kind of this awkward middle-aged British man, and has been an awkward middle-aged British man since the 90s, essentially. And he's very unassuming, and typically what he does is he goes in, and because he's, like, very unassuming, and I would say, like, non-judgmental, the subjects of his documentaries typically, like, open up to him, and he'll ask questions that are, like, on the surface, like, innocent, but they are designed in such a way to, like, show the person's, like, true thoughts on a thing. And so this documentary, Inside the Manosphere, the people he's interviewing are like, oh, you have a reputation for, like, setting people up. And it's not that he sets people up. It's just, like, he asks the question and then the people answer it. And because they're not very good people, you know what I mean? Like, they essentially set themselves up. So that's the little bit of background about Louis Theroux Inside the Manosphere. About, like, his style of documentary. So, Inside the Manosphere, Nicole, you, for a time, are chronically online. I'm chronically online. For our listeners who maybe are not chronically online, the Manosphere is, like, this, like, loose, it's not an affiliate, it's not an affiliation by any means, but it's kind of like this loose conglomerate of influencers, talking heads, podcasters, whatever, who address, you know, quote unquote, like, male issues. And it's like it's not like a cohesive front. It's like, I would say kind of like it goes the spectrum of, like, political beliefs. Like, on the far end, you might have, like, conspiracy theorists, which you see a little bit in this documentary. And then, like, there's some alt-right stuff going on, and there's really, like, there's no, like, set definition, right? Like, you could be in the manosphere, but, like, not be a neo-Nazi, or, like, but then some of them are. So, Louis Theroux, it's kind of like a weird weekend setup in the sense that, like, he's gonna now follow a couple of the most extreme, I guess you could say, voices in this, like, internet echo chamber. I'll be quite honest, I only recognize, like, one of the names, and he he didn't consent to be on the documentary. So these people, like, they're like, oh, these are like the most famous voices in this like internet like ecosystem or whatever. I've never heard these people. Nicole. Maybe that's good. Maybe it's good that I've never heard of them. But essentially,
I think that speaks good to your character. I don't know. I think that's a good thing.
Yeah, like I know, like there's like there's like I don't know. There's other names that I would recognize, but they aren't. Louis Theroux didn't lump them in with like the most like controversial or like the most extreme. So he was looking at the most extreme, and these are like essentially. And I'm not even slandering these people. Like, they would go on record saying this. They're essentially, like, women-hating men. Oh, their favorite line is to say, we don't hate women, we love women. But, you know what I mean? So, but they shouldn't vote or leave the house or wear shoes. Like, that kind of stuff. I laugh because it's just... I laugh because it's just, like, idiotic. So, like... The documentary, like, follows Louis Theroux, like, talking to these guys. And, like, again, they're like, oh, you're setting us up. And he'll just be like, a lot of them, this is, again, this is, like, a part of the internet that I'm not familiar with. A lot of them practice, like, what they call one-sided, what's it when you only have one partner? Monogamy.
Monogamy?
They practice one-sided monogamy, where, like, and so he'll be like, this is like one of his questions. How would you describe one-sided monogamy? Not like that isn't like a crazy question. You just told the documentarian that you believe in a one-sided oh my gosh, I'm gonna trip on my words. Like you told the documentarian you practice this. Okay, so define it for us. And then they'll be like, oh, you're setting me up. Like, you're doing this to make me look bad. It's like, it's just like, it's so idiotic. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, it's like, so anyways, this to me was like a pretty standard Louis Theroux documentary. In terms of setup, he kind of parachutes into this weird subculture. He happens to be exploring like kind of the grossest subculture of this manosphere. And then he kind of follows them around and like asks them, I would say, you know, surface level innocent questions. And then it's up to them to answer like how deep or whatever.
Sure.
Why this, even though it's like a classic Louis setup, and like, again, like he has spent time with like really deplorable people and like very controversial people. Like he has a feature-length documentary about like a very controversial rehabilitation program for pedophiles, for instance, and like spends time like interviewing pedophiles. So he's not new at this.
Sure.
But it felt like you don't learn anything about these subjects. You know what I mean? And some of the critiques I've read online was like, you can't get anything new out of people that are chronically online. Like there's nothing new to learn because all you have to do is listen to one of their podcasts and all of this will be made available to you. So he tries to do like some psychoanalyzing, which I don't think he's equipped to do. Like he's like, I think these guys are doing this because they have trauma in their background, which I thought like, we don't need that, Louis. Like we don't need your like commentary. I guess like I wanted to know, I guess I'm disappointed because in a sense, this was a clear Louis Theroux documentary. I wanted to know like, are these guys BSing or do they actually believe what they're saying? You know what I mean? Like some of them are grifters and they're doing this for money. Well, I would say like all of them are probably doing it for money. But like how much do they actually believe and like have drunk the Kool-Aid? And how much are they just like clickbait? They know this is going to drive profits. One of them ended up going into conspiracy theories, like very anti-Semitic kind of New World Order stuff. And Louis, it's near the end of the documentary, and he goes, okay, now it's getting weird. He like says that. He's like, now we got something. Because up until this point, it's been like women bashing, you know what I mean? Like kind of like run-of-the-mill, I don't know, like, what you would expect from these guys. And then we start getting into, okay, well, these beliefs kind of get, like, pretty extreme. You know what I mean? And, like, there's no explanation for that evolution and, like, why certain corners of the internet. And I'm very interested in extremist thought. And I love long-form podcasts and investigative journalism about fringe movements, whether it be religious or political. Like, I'm very interested in this kind of stuff. So I was kind of hoping to go deeper, but that's not the type of documentaries he makes. You know what I mean? Like, he very much just, like, parachutes in, talks to some people, and then parachuted out. So it's like, I can't really be mad at him because, like, he delivered on what he typically does. Sure. I just felt it was a little bit maybe vapid, but these people are pretty vapid. So a couple critiques you've probably seen, Nicole, is that people are upset, I guess you could say. Well, the major critique I've seen is what my opinion is that we don't learn anything new about these people. We're just like, okay, they are pretty, you know, they hold pretty extreme views about women in politics. And they're pretty deplorable. Okay, check. So that's one of the critiques. Another critique is that, and I don't know if I agree with this one, is that he's platforming a fringe group.
Well,
but like his documentaries have always been about fringe groups.
Right.
So that's where I'm kind of like, I don't know, like if I'm remembering correctly, like I was probably like 13 watching his KKK documentary with people being like, yeah, the Holocaust didn't happen. But
yeah,
like,
I think that it's because, does he make his, like, sorry to interrupt, but like, is he making, like, the side he's on evident, or is he staying, like, neutral the whole time and just kind of letting them speak?
So that's where it's you know what his political views are by the way he asks questions. So you know how I said, like, he'll, like, throw us what it seems like a surface level question, but he knows that by the way they're going to answer, they're going to look like idiots.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, I don't think, like, I could be wrong, but, like, he has what we would describe as, like, progressive values, or, like, at the very least, like, left-leaning values. And I don't think he doesn't hide that, but he also doesn't, like, open up with it. It's interesting because this documentary, you know, the documentaries I grew up in were, like, kind of, like, even though we were on the internet, we're, like, pre-internet. So it wasn't like his subjects, like, had researched him. All these guys went in being like, okay, like, he's going to set me up. He's a leftist. You're going to ask particular questions. You're going to frame this in a particular way. And so, like, he didn't have to do anything. You know what I mean? Like, all he had to do was let the cameras roll. And part of, I guess, his charm is that he, like, gives people a very long rope to hang themselves with. You know what I mean? Like, he doesn't have to do any weird editing because, like, they're just, like, blatant. And so, like, if someone from depending on your politics, you would watch that and be like, okay, they're buffoons.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Like, you wouldn't need the commentary. So he doesn't have a reputation of being, like, a conservative pillar. And so, so, like, I don't really buy the argument, like, oh, he's platforming particular voices, because it's very evident in the documentary that he thinks they're idiots.
Yes.
Does that make sense?
Such an interesting critique, as in, like, you know, I think that sometimes people walk this really weird line of you need to understand and know about bad things in order to understand that they're bad. And
sure.
So you just need to explore them. It doesn't mean that you are necessarily platforming them. And I think that, like, the line, people often tend to blur that line. You know, it's like you have a bigot on your whatever media, you have your whatever you're doing, and it's, you know, to assume that you're platforming them. It's like, yeah, sure, you're platforming them, but just by definition of platforming them, like you're having them on your platform, but the goal is not to give them a louder voice.
Right.
The goal is to catch them in their own weird biggity traps. Like,
yeah, it's interesting because the other, like, they explore this a little bit, but again, this was another critique of the documentary, which I think is valid. But again, that's not the documentary Louis Theroux is making. But it's kind of like, it's been researched, I think. It's my understanding that experts agree that the platform, like the people who are actually watching this content are like prepubescent to teenage boys. So we're talking like 12 to 15 maybe is like the target age demographic. So the 13 to 15-year-old boy is not going to log on to Netflix and watch an hour and a half documentary with Louis Theroux. You know what I mean? Like, it's not like they're not the same thing. Yeah. So it's not like a 13-year-old would watch this Louis Theroux documentary and be like, I want more of this content.
Sure.
They're already getting the content on TikTok. If anything, this, you know, it just seemed like a really weird argument. And then, just because we're running out of time and I want to hear about the other movie you watched recently, Nicole, but the idea, like, that was one of the critiques was we're not learning anything new. So wouldn't have this been a more constructive documentary if it was about the, like, you know, the 13 to 15-year-olds who become radicalized by this content? I agree. I think that would have been a much more interesting documentary. I think it would have been fascinating to watch the descent of someone becoming radicalized in real time and understanding how the algorithm plays into that, all of that stuff, like what motivates them psychologically and socioeconomically, and then how does our technology feed into that. That being said, that's not the type of documentary Louis Theroux makes.
Yeah.
You know?
Interesting. I have 2 questions for you, if I may.
Yes.
Number 1, do you think, based on all of this and based on where we are in 2026, number 1, do you think that this documentary would have been, it is like 10 years too late? Number 1. Number 2, how many times did these Manosphere guys mention the movie The Matrix?
Yeah, the stupid red pill, black pill. And not as much as you think, but there definitely is. I think Louis Theroux makes that in voiceover because they're like, one of the influencers was like, I woke up and I like took the pill. And then like Louis Theroux was like, for those who aren't online, this is what they're referring to. Interestingly, didn't mention the political beliefs of the Matrix filmmakers who, you know, have gone on record to say like it's been completely co-opted and like misunderstood. But anyways, that's a whole other kettle of fish. Again, that's not really this is like my memory. I haven't watched a Louis Theroux document, any of his new stuff. Probably the last one I watched was about that rehabilitation program for sex offenders. So, and that was like well over 10 years ago. So to be fair, the memory I have of his filmmaking maybe isn't an accurate representation of the filmmaking he's doing now. But like, I don't really remember him providing much commentary. You know, it's really like you're just spending time with these people and you're like hearing their thoughts, right? So anyways, he didn't provide that. And do you think, the other question was, do you think this should have been 10 years earlier? Yes and no. I think yes, because like the warning signs were there, but like in terms of like how social media, like TikTok didn't even exist 10 years ago, right?
I don't think so.
Yeah, so I don't know if it's the same. He would have been looking at the same. I don't think it would have been as extreme 10 years ago, I guess. But maybe that's my own naivete. But, you know, he could have made a documentary about, like, 4chan 10 years ago.
Yeah, it does seem like it's such an interesting idea, but it's, like, exactly what the critique is. We know all of this stuff already, so I don't really understand what we're supposed to be getting out of it now. Because, like, there's a bunch of kids who are radicalized now, and, like, this does us no good at this point.
And again, like, maybe we should be figuring out, like, why the kids, like, why this appeals to them. And I read an interesting think piece that was like, you know, it was almost like, you know, people are saying you're giving this too much attention because, like, you fear that it's, like, giving them a platform. But he was more, this think piece was like, we're giving them too much attention for, like, a very niche problem. And I'm like, oh, I haven't heard that before. Like, him essentially saying, like, it's actually a very small percentage of boys who are being radicalized by this. And, like, we're giving a lot of attention to a very small problem. And there's, like, other things we should be worried about. But his article wasn't data driven, and a lot of people in the comments were like, you know, you're not looking essentially at the right things.
Yeah.
But anyways, that was an interesting critique that I hadn't read, because a lot of the think pieces have been very alarmist, being like, Louis Theroux's like capturing kind of you know, the zeitgeist of, like, a particular fringe group, and how, like, we should be worried about this, and his documentary didn't do a good job of, you know, exploring why it's you know, that kind of stuff. So anyways, I think it's just an interesting, I think, like, for me, and I've said this before, to me, this would have made a fascinating, like, 10-part podcast, and, like, I wouldn't have wanted Louis Theroux to be the investigative journalist. Like, I would have wanted, you know what I mean? Like, I could do, like, 10 hours, 50 minutes each episode and just, like, do a real deep dive. And it's funny, I had started a podcast. This is my very last thing, because I'm looking at the time, Nicole, and I do want to hear about the bride. This was probably over a year ago. On Spotify, I had started a podcast about, a young man. Like, it was going to be an investigative report, but the first episode started with a particular young man, and we were essentially following him in retrospect, how he became radicalized online. And then, so, like, the first 2 episodes, it was put up by a newspaper, and I can't remember which newspaper it was. I don't know if it was the Times or whatever, but then it was behind a paywall. I'm like, what the heck? I had never experienced that on Spotify before. I'm like, I pay for a Spotify membership, and the episodes were literally locked, so I never got to. But anyways, that would have scratched my itch much more than this documentary. I would say that this is probably a skip it.
Okay.
Just because, like, I found the content interesting enough. Like, it held my attention for, like, the hour and 30 minutes it was. Mm-hmm. But, I would, like, if you want, like, classic Louis Theroux, like, honestly, I would say, like, go back and try to find his Weird Weekend episodes, because I think that they're, maybe because it was, like, a simpler time. I don't know. It's, like, so, like, I think people wanted this documentary to do more than it, like, set out to do. And, like, that's not his style. And I wonder if he just, like, maybe his version of documentaries have gone to the wayside, because we live in, like, a much more, like, polarized and, I would say, like, complicated culture. And so, like, I don't think it's enough to just, like, follow these characters, so to speak, like, quote unquote characters, and do that shtick of just, like, asking questions and, like, letting them look like idiots. And it's like, so what? You know, if I wanted to listen to them sound like idiots, I'd just listen to their podcast.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I wonder, you know, sorry, one more second on this. I swear. This kind of sounds like it would be an interesting, like, all the things that you were wanting from it, and maybe that everybody was wanting from it, I think that are maybe explored in that TV show Adolescence. Do you remember that TV show?
I didn't watch it, but yes. Okay. And some of the think pieces have been quoting it. Interestingly enough, the one was like, oh, this is a niche problem, like, quoted that, because apparently, like, legislation and stuff was passed in England after that miniseries came out. But yes, that's like, it's a fabricated story, but it's like a conglomerate. Is that the right word? Like, it's, a composite of, like, several crimes that have happened in England. But does it answer the question of why the kid did it?
It doesn't I would say it goes more towards, like, you kind of understand how he got there more so than understanding why he did it.
Right.
I don't think that we ever, I mean, maybe somebody else's interpretation might be different, but I didn't find that it even mattered why he did it. I was more like, the questions.
How did we get here?
How did we get here? And
Yeah.
it definitely, like, there's no definitive answer, but it really explores it, like, in a very visceral way. So I would, if anybody who is listening who has not seen Adolescence, it is absolutely incredible, like, technically, and also performance and content. It's just an incredible 4 hours. So definitely check that out.
Okay, so skip Louis Theroux Inside the Manosphere and watch Adolescence. Nicole, I have time to stay on. Can you stay on to...
Yes.
Okay, because I'm dying to hear about the bride, exclamation point. Correct.
Yes.
That's how it's stylized. Because I was not, this is being touted, spoiler alert, the first flop of 2026. That was one of the headlines I saw. Jessie Buckley goes from winning the Oscar to the first flop of 2026. But anyways,
impressive.
Yeah, good for her. She has range. And so anyways, because it's performing so poorly in the box office, it was not available in theaters when I went to go watch it this past weekend. It has been in theaters. It would have been in theaters 2 weeks. So I'm still hoping that it comes out to the independent theater in Kingston. But needless to say, I saw a different movie instead because it is being considered a flop. So you texted me that you do not maybe feel the same way that the reviewers.
Okay, I think I'm just gonna go. Okay, so here's the IMDb logline for people who don't know what The Bride is about. Okay, in 1930s Chicago, Frankenstein asks Dr. I can't pronounce her name and I don't remember it, to help create a companion. They give life to a murdered woman as the bride, sparking romance, police interest, and radical social change. The last one is very loose. I feel like we didn't even need to put that in there. But anyway. So, like, here's the thing about The Bride. I think the framing device of the movie was a choice.
Was nuts.
And do you know about the framing device? Did you ever find out? Or like,
if it's what I think you're referring to, yes, I know, and that it sounds insane, and you probably could have omitted it. There's a little bit of reincarnation going on.
Yes. Honestly, like, I don't understand. You really didn't need that. That was, like, truly my biggest problem with this movie. And there were 4 of us who went. I was the only one who kind of liked it. Not
Fair.
The framing device, the movie.
Yeah.
I had such a good time. But I also feel like a couple things. The best part about this movie is the lead actors, obviously. If you didn't have Oscar winners leading this movie, it would be
hot mess.
It would fall apart so hard. You need people who commit to whatever bit was happening, because there were a lot of bits. And if you didn't, specifically with The Bride, like, if you didn't have that commitment and she wasn't such a good actor, it would just be embarrassing to watch. Like, cringy. The best part about this movie is, I know you say this all the time, and I've started to kind of, like, adopt it as my own, like, framework as well for going into movies that have a specific, like, tone to them. If you have a director who's not committing fully to something, it's not as interesting.
Mm-hmm.
If you're going wrong and strong, I find that so cool.
Yeah.
Like, maybe it doesn't work for everybody, but, like, she has left no stone unturned. Basically.
She let her freak flag fly, Maggie Gyllenhaal, from what I understand.
And it's just like, okay, so picture this: Bonnie and Clyde,
Undead,
Rocky Horror Picture Show. There's, like, so many more. Honestly, there were so many movies that were that could have been inspired
Just
by this.
to interject real quickly, that's been the number one critique I've seen online, is that this movie felt like 4 movies, excuse the pun, Frankenstein together. And, like, some, like, maybe one of the movies was good, and then the 3 other Frankenstein parts were not as great. I'm rooting for Maggie Gyllenhaal because I love her as an actress. Is her first or second directorial outing?
Second, I think.
Second?
Definitely not her first.
Okay. Did she write the movie?
She did.
Okay, so she just had a lot of ideas, it sounds like. And
the
no one
credit is Maggie Gyllenhaal and Mary Shelley, just so everybody is.
This just feels like she was like her senior art project, and her teacher was like, Maggie, stop, and Maggie was like, no.
It's so
love her for that.
Honestly, if you take it for whatever it is, like, please, if you're gonna see it, and I think you actually should, like, sure, this movie is a flop, it's a bomb, whatever, it's a good time. Go and see it in the theater, have a drink.
Maybe it'll be a cult classic.
I think it will be. Like, I think it's gonna, well, will it be?
Will it stand the test of time?
I think it will stand some test of something. This is not the last we're going to see of the bride, I don't think. Is
Maggie Gyllenhaal's husband, is he the police officer?
Yeah.
Peter Sarsgaard. He's not great?
No, he's just Peter Sarsgaard. But he is or Sarsgaard?
Sorry, yeah, he's not one of the Skarsgårds. No. He's one of the other ones.
Sarsgaard.
Yeah,
yes.
Yeah.
Okay, the thing is, like, his counterpart for the whole movie is Penelope Cruz.
Interesting.
So beautiful. She is so in it, and he's just Peter Sarsgaarding.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know.
And, like,
he's fine.
He's fine. He's not the best.
But he's not, I wouldn't say he's like a genre movie actor.
No.
He's like just a drama. He just does, like, he's a very, like, standard drama actor.
I always think of when you and I went to the Michigan Theater with my dad to see An Education. Every time I see Peter Sarsgaard, I think of that movie.
That's really the only movie I can think of him in. And he's fine. He's fine in that.
In The Skeleton Key. Do you remember our favorite movie from when we were 12?
Oh, love him. And love, shout out to Ted for taking us to all those movies.
Shout out to Ted, shout out to Kate Hudson, shout out to New Orleans.
Peter Sarsgaard. And then Jake Gyllenhaal makes an appearance. But he's an unhinged. When Jake Gyllenhaal goes for it, he goes for it. So it sounds like he was probably well suited for this movie.
This is not a spoiler, I just feel like I have to share it. So
no one's going to see this movie by the sounds of it, so you're fair. You can go.
So Frank, aka Frankenstein,
do they address the fact that Frankenstein is actually the name, should be the doctor and not the monster?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Very briefly.
Okay, anyways, go on.
He is, oh God, he's so charming, number one. His favorite thing to do, because he's lonely, right? He wants a companion. His favorite thing to do is go to the movies.
Love him.
He goes to the movies and he watches Ronnie Reed, who is the star of the movies in the 30s, and he's obsessed with this movie star. And that's who Jake Gyllenhaal plays. And he's, he's very charming. I think it could have been anybody.
Right.
But, it's a family affair, this movie.
Jake was like, okay, Maggie.
Yeah.
I'll be in your movie.
Right, exactly.
And her husband was like, well, no question. I can't even.
Yeah. I can't say no. Truly, everybody was having a great time. There's a lot of screaming, like a lot of Jessie Buckley going, yeah. be really fun if that's, if you're in the mood.
Yeah, there's a lot of, from my understanding, a lot of female rage. Or maybe not.
This is a big problem for me, actually. The framing device and the way that Maggie Gyllenhaal really tried to make this, like, a feminist story. And I'm not saying that there's a problem with telling a feminist story. I'm the most annoying about these things. I don't think that there's anything wrong with that. I think that
not everything needs to be a feminist story. Is that what you're saying?
I just think that she really tried to squeeze it in a way, and that whole subplot of the bride basically becoming like, oh, Chicago. Do you remember in Chicago, the movie where everybody's like, everybody wants to kill their husband, Roxy Hart. Get a gun that Roxy Hart used to kill her lover.
Yeah.
Like that. It's like that. And we don't need it.
That delivery was amazing. It was that. It sounds like it could have been just like a fun, weird bee creature feature.
Yeah.
Because, like, there are musical scenes. From my understanding.
Oh, they're the best parts.
Yeah, like, if you just leaned into... Because that's the other... we talked about this off air like a million years ago. For a little while, it was being promoted as a musical. Or, like, in some summaries, it was being called a musical. But then I read the reviews, and apparently it's not really a musical. But there are musical numbers.
Right. Another interesting thing, there are musical numbers. Do we sing? Do they sing? Oh, yeah. Putting on the Ritz is in there.
Of course.
I love. But actually, I meant to bring this up earlier, but apparently there were quite a few changes in this movie. Like, a very vocal person on the internet, there's so many of them, had said that they had seen a pretty early screening of this movie and really liked it and thought it was, like, spoke to a specific experience about, love or something. And then they saw it again and they were like, wow, this is a completely different movie. I don't know what happened, but I want to see the other one.
Huh.
So I wonder what happened.
Yeah. And now, like, who knows? Because, like, the way production worked, who knows, right? And it could have not even been, it could have been out of Maggie Gyllenhaal's control. But now in production, or like post-production and in promotion, she has to own the movie.
Yeah. And I understand that she has shared that Warner Brothers, I'm pretty sure it was Warner Brothers, did say that she had to cut back on, there was like quite a bit of sexual violence, which isn't really present in this one. And I don't really think that having the addition of that could have done anything to make it better. But apparently that was one of the things that the studio came at her with. So I don't know what happened when she reworked it.
Right. Like what was lost and what, like, what ended up being emphasized. I think, again, we live in a culture. I'm kind of surprised about Maggie Gyllenhaal only because she, like, was raised in Hollywood and, like, again, Nepo baby, whatever you want to call her. Yeah. So I would have hoped she wouldn't have been subject to these market forces. But the idea of that, we have to jam so much plot and, like, so much into movies. And, like, because I feel that my biggest critique of movies in the last 5 to 10 years is, like, everything has an editing problem. And nothing feels cohesive. And it feels like they're telling 4 movies in one. And you'd think that, like, for having grown up in movies, she would have had a better eye, I guess.
Yeah. Or I can just picture her being, like, seeing who she had. I mean, she also had Annette Bening, which was so cool. She had these sets. She had Annette Bening. She had Jessie Buckley. She had Christian Bale. And they were all in these funky costumes in this crazy world. And she's like, let's just go and have fun.
Yeah.
I can just see her being, like, enticed by that and kind of, like, forgetting about the movie.
Yeah, she definitely was just like, I'm having a good time. Yeah. And didn't have, like, a curatorial experience.
Maybe. I mean, I just want to see it. I just want to see what it should have been. You know what I mean?
Right. Without, like, whatever meddling happened or whatever. Okay, so... yeah, it's so funny reviewing, like, movies that are, like, so bad. You're kind of just like, it was bad, but it was fun. So I don't know what to say. So I don't know how you're going to rate this movie.
Okay, so what I will say is I think, okay, again, not to sound, I'm going to go back to the feminism thing. Go see a movie directed by a woman. If they get one flop, they don't get another movie.
Yeah.
So, like, literally go out and see. This is a lesson for everybody. You got to go out and see movies directed by queer people, movies directed by people who are not white, movies directed by women, because they don't get another chance. And on that basis alone, you should definitely see it. But also, like, this is just fun. Just go and have a little fun. It's just fun. Go see it. Go see it in the theaters. I would say see it.
As you were describing that, this is, like, not even remotely the same, but kind of the same. Dan and I talk about this all the time. If there's, like, a local restaurant or, like, a local store, and we're like, okay, we have to patronize that. Is that the right word? Like, we have to be patrons at that restaurant because we cannot complain when that local business shuts down. Because you hear that all the time, like, oh, what a shame that, like, such and such shut down. It's like, well, did you ever give them your money? Like, did you ever go out for dinner? And even, like, to the point where it's like, maybe it isn't as great as, like, a chain restaurant for whatever reason. But, like, it's still, like, once a month we can give our money or whatever, you know what I mean? So, like, I definitely am in support of your thesis, Nicole, that, like, you can't complain about something not existing or going away if you didn't do anything to support it to begin with. You know what I mean?
100%.
Although this does sound like a weird one. This sounds like it. How long was it?
Oh, it was too long.
Yeah, okay. It just sounds...
Let me see. Hang on.
It sounds kind of crazy, nuts.
Oh, okay. It felt... Well, this says something. I'm sorry to say this. It was 2 hours and 6 minutes. It did feel longer. I feel like my review is just going completely opposite as to what I'm saying. But I promise it's a good...
It is your local restaurant. You must go see this movie. All right.
If not only for Jessie Buckley and Christian Bale. Oh my gosh, what a treat. How fun.
Did they have good chemistry? I love Christian Bale. It's no secret.
Yes. And he's so charming. Like, you know who you kind of reminded me of in this movie? Like, if Travis Barker was a monster, like a weird monster, which some might think he is. He's, like, giving that energy.
Kind of like a punk rock star looking for love.
Looking for love and, like, kind of aloof. And he's, like...
Kind of cool.
Like but he's a simple man. He will literally watch his bride with his mouth hanging open and being like, "How lucky am I?
I love that.
Not worthy."
That does really. Having not watched, now we really got to wrap this up, but because we're getting weird. But that's just like having not watched Keeping Up with the Kardashians or whatever it's called now on Hulu. Sure. But like seeing social media, I'm like, oh my gosh, that is 100% his dynamic with Courtney. Just be like, my girl is so beautiful. Do your thing, girl.
Yeah. And he's probably vegan. Frank is probably vegan. I see that for him.
I love that. Okay, that's great. That alone, that's a see it. But again, we are describing a very niche segment of the internet. This has just been an episode of niche interest. Okay, which says a lot more about us than it does the general movie audience. Nicole, thank you so much for coming on. What should have been, a relatively short episode turned into almost an hour and 15. So sorry, Mike, for having to edit that. Anyways, a lot of movies coming out. I feel like it's funny how, in a way, it feels like there's kind of like an ebb after Oscars. So like we're kind of in a downtime, but also like we're going to see a lot of new movies coming out that seem exciting. Like I'm looking forward to Ready or Not 2, which I do believe has already come out, but is coming to streaming really soon. So I'm looking forward to that. Sorry, Nicole, what'd you say?
No, it's out. It's out in the theaters.
Okay, yeah, and it will be, I think it's coming to Netflix. So I'm going to wait till it comes to streaming. The Mummy movie, yeah, I don't know. I feel like we're really hitting our stride. I think we're, God forbid I say this and put it out there, but I feel like we're kind of like bouncing back from COVID in terms of the movies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
This feels like we're getting there. Okay. Thanks so much, Nicole. Thanks so much for listening. We'll be back next week. I don't remember what we're reviewing, but next week is Diary of a Country Priest. So please watch along. Father Quirk will be on, and in the meantime, go see some movies.
Thank you for listening to You Had Me at Skip It, a Soul One Arts Inc. podcast. This podcast is produced by Mike Shepard and Austin Spinner Summer. It is a project of Soul One Arts Inc. To learn more about Soul One and all the great work that Soul One is doing in the arts community, especially in film, theater, and other performing arts, visit soul1arts.ca. You can contribute to this podcast by visiting soul1arts.ca and going to the podcast tab. You'll find all the information on You Had Me at Skip It and how you can get your questions read on air each week. Thank you again for listening.